Do Republicans want you to die? I mean, seriously, why else would they be doing this? Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. I just said to Frank Church, I thought he was a Republican. He wasn't. He was a Democrat. Frank Church was the anti-corruption guy, senator who went after Nixon. The Church hearings were pretty amazing. Okay, a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. We've been talking about the coronavirus and the cult, the Trump death cult. I'm arguing that this is the GOP death cult, and it goes all the way back to 1981 when Ronald Reagan started deconstructing the New Deal, and not just the New Deal, also the Great Society started taking apart the rights of unionized workers to unionize. So wages went down among people all across the United States. Reagan and Bush opened the doors to China and Mexico. They negotiated NAFTA. They started a stronger relationship with China to move our manufacturing over there to kill, American industry. The George Herbert Walker Bush, of course, finished the negotiations for NAFTA. And, yes, Bill Clinton signed it, but it wasn't his bill. It wasn't his idea. It wasn't his legislation. This was a Republican initiative and continues to be, by the way. It's been Democrats, who like Sherrod Brown and Bernie Sanders, who have been fighting NAFTA from its inception since the 80s. So it's just, the whole Republican death cult thing goes back a long way. They have been fighting the ability of Americans to have health care forever. I mean, Republicans started fighting Democratic efforts to provide single-payer universal health care back in 1947 when Harry Truman proposed it. Over and over and over again, Republicans and conservatives have been fighting the idea that health care should be a right and not a privilege in the United States. It's obscene. It's crazy. But this is part of the Republican death cult. They want to go back to the days when young girls and young women were having back alley abortions and dying from it. Some of us are old enough to actually remember those days. And yes, it really was happening. They want us to go back to executions. Last night, the federal government, you had a 2 a.m. ruling, a 5-4 ruling by the Supreme Court, in which the 5 conservatives said, yeah, put that guy to death. Now, all the evidence is that he really was guilty and he committed a heinous crime, but still, put him to death. Because we're such civilized people here in the United States. I believe we're the only developed country in the world that still executes prisoners. We're certainly the only civilized country in the world where it's legal to hold prisoners in slavery. It is authorized by the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And this death cult that is called the Trump administration has fully embraced that. And they're doing it now not just with people who have been convicted of crimes, but they're doing it now with people who have attempted to seek asylum in the United States because they were going to be murdered, or raped or whatever, tortured in their home countries, and they came here seeking asylum, trying to come to the land of milk and honey, to that shining city on the hill. And now this death cult, this Republican death cult, is bringing us the coronavirus, and it's exploding in the Republican-controlled states. And you've got Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott still refusing to do anything about it. Doug Ducey in Arizona. I mean, in Arizona and in Texas, they still have laws on the books that say that cities can't require people to wear masks. Cities can't. These are the guys who are out there yelling states' rights, local government, when it comes to the right to regulate a woman's right to have an abortion, or when it comes to the right to regulate who can vote and who can't vote, or when it comes to the right to regulate, whether schools are integrated or not. But as soon as somebody says, hey, let's do something to save some lives, oh, no, you don't. You can't do that. It's a death cult. And they're spreading coronavirus like there's no tomorrow with this herd immunity strategy that the Trump administration is pursuing. Check out this study. This study was just published, this article about it in Newsweek. The headline kind of tells the whole thing. Scans reveal heart damage in over half of COVID-19 patients. The study involved 1,216 people in 69 countries. They did echogram on 6 continents. They gave them echocardiograms. It's an ultrasound for the heart. Of the total 1,216 patients, 667, 55%, had abnormalities in their scan, and 1 in 7 participants had what researchers described as severe heart abnormalities. The average age was 62. This is happening to people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right across the board, after the team excluded patients with existing heart conditions. So they weren't even analyzed, right? If you had a heart condition before you got COVID, you weren't even evaluated. The proportion of abnormal scan results of those with severe cardiac disease was still 55%. This disease is damaging people's hearts, which, by the way, will be a pre-existing condition. And Donald Trump is argued last week, 2 weeks ago, before the U.S. Supreme Court. We didn't get a ruling on that, did we? Argued before the U.S. Supreme Court to blow up Obamacare and bring back the right of a health insurance company to say, no, we won't cover you. You have a pre-existing condition.